Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the UCM podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bill Davis, founder and CEO of UCM Practice Growth Systems. And I am very excited to have with me today a great guest returning to the podcast, Dr. Rick Means. Welcome back. Excited to have you here.
Hey, I'm excited as well. Thanks for the invite. This is going to be a great time.
Awesome. So anybody out there doesn't know you, Dr. Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Second generation chiropractor, and went to Palmer, Florida. Started up over there, got really big in the upper cervical, which was just handed down to me from my dad. So Dr. Rick Sr., he was with Michael Kale back in 1983. Practiced with him for a while, was his right hand man, and so all I ever knew was upper cervical chiropractic throughout school. Went to Palmer. That's all I did, all I knew, like I said, and came back, worked with my dad and my uncle for a while, about just a little less than 4 years before we opened up Corrective Spinal Care, which is just under 10 years old now. And we've got 3 offices currently. We're on a vision for over 26 offices throughout the state of Florida. Who knows if we'll just stay in Florida or not? We could go further. We'll see. And I'm just on God's path wherever He's taken me. So that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. So, Dr. Rick, as we've worked together, I've gotten to know you over the years. One of the things that I've really seen in you is that you are a big picture thinker, right? That you're not, you don't just think about things in a small way. You, as you mentioned, you got a vision for 26 offices. Not a lot of doctors have that kind of a vision. And so, where do you think that has developed in you? Where is that something that, that you learned growing up? Is that, have you always kind of had a big vision kind of mindset, or is that developed over time?
1000% developed over time.
Yeah.
You knew me in school. Like I said, I was hard-nosed, upper cervical knee chest, and I'm going to practice that. That was me. I'm going to serve the patients. I'm going to be the best there is, best knee chest doc there is. And it just has developed over the years now, just becoming, I would tell you, the number one thing that I've learned is just be open to opportunities. Be open to opportunities. Don't be closed-minded. And so I've stayed open to opportunities now, and as the opportunities come my way, I just go all in at those opportunities. So yeah, this whole journey was never the plan by any means. I mean, quite honestly, I was just going to come out of school and work with my dad, and that was it. That was the plan. That was as far as the plan went. Now then it went from, okay, hey, let's open up our own office, to let's open up 3 offices. Now it's over. Let's do 26. And I'm, again, as God continues to expand the vision, I just continue to say, here I am. Just point me in a direction and I'll do the work.
Yeah. So coming out of school, like you said, you just like, I'm just going to go work with my dad and just kind of do this thing and just be a good technician and just do that. And so you went from that to starting the own practice. So talk about that first step, because like you said, as opportunities present themselves and you step into them, then sometimes, God expands that vision, right? And can kind of opens up your mind in a new way and you start seeing things differently. And so that first step of faith that you took coming out of your dad's practice into your own practice, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I think it stems from, what do you want? Like, what do you really want? What do you see? What is your vision? How do you plan on taking care of patients? How do you plan on doing things structurally in your office? And, for me, I love my dad and my uncle, love their practice. It was just different than what I wanted. That was it. So I started out by developing, what is it that I see? And once I figured out what it was that I saw and I envisioned and I wanted, I started honestly looking out into other offices and other organizations and said, who has X, Y, and Z? And when I didn't find it, then it was as simple as that. If it's not there, if it doesn't exist yet, the model that I'm looking for, then I will create it. And it
Hmm.
wasn't anything more complicated than that. It was just like, okay, we got to create it. Let's just go grassroots. It was extremely scary, extremely scary. We'll never downplay that. Scary to the point of like, hey, I, cried a few times over it. It was that scary. But at the same time, it was like, hey, if it's got to be done, like we always say, if it's to be, it's up to me. And so I just went ahead and did it. And that's that.
Hmm. So you mentioned that, when you started the first practice, you had a vision for kind of how it should look. And you looked out there and you said, I don't see this anywhere. I think that I've got something I need to establish here. So like, what was some of those key pieces that you were like, this is what my practice is going to look like? What was that original vision of what you were, you wanted to establish foundationally?
Basic things. I didn't want to do anything with insurance. Was hard nosed, hard pressed against insurance for philosophical reasons. It was always in my mind. In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principle, stand like a rock. And that was one of my
Mm,
things. I don't want to bow to the insurance companies, so I was against insurance. And the other thing, some of the big things I wanted really to get away from this short-term symptom based. Every time a patient comes in, tell me how you're doing. Okay, you've got this pain and this pain. Okay, I'll try and help you with those pains, and then come back and see me when it starts hurting again. And I hated that mindset. It didn't vibe from a philosophical standpoint in my mind. It never made sense. So that was one of the things too. I wanted to, hence corrective spinal care, more of a long-term whole approach for the patient. And that's where that developed from.
gotcha. Okay, so cash based, corrective. I mean, obviously, and those kind of go hand in hand too, right? I mean, if you're going to do corrective care, you can't do that in an insurance model, right? So
Exactly.
the doing those things together was a key part of the development of the system that you have now, because I'm that has carried on in all three locations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. It was just, those two things have to be congruent with each other. And that's what you're looking for as you're growing your systems in your office, and you're growing how you do your notes, how you see your patients, what technique you use. It all has to be congruent.
Mm,
And you'll notice that the incongruencies really expose themselves when you bring other doctors into the organization.
hmm,
You can have multiple CAs throughout your organization, and no offense to a CA, but they typically don't come in knowing a ton about chiropractic.
sure.
You bring in associates, and they start, God bless them, but they start nitpicking every little detail.
Yeah.
And if it's all not congruent, they say, why didn't you do this, and why aren't we doing this? And I think, for people trying to grow their organizations and such, that congruency is huge, and you
Hmm,
have to be open to listening to your associates and doctors. It can't just be like, hey, how about you stop talking and not let me do everything. Some of the largest growth I've experienced thus far in this organization has been opening my mind to listening to other doctors, and just constantly refining systems, constantly finding incongruencies,
hmm,
constantly making them congruent. And then that keeps everybody ethical, keeps everybody on point, keeps everybody charged up, and they can see the teamwork and they feel valued. And that's how an organization really grows. You
hmm.
nailed it right there.
Yeah, and I love that, because it needs to be bigger than you, right? Like, as the leader of the organization, there has to be some sort of a purpose, a mission, a foundational values and things that everybody can see that this is more important than my opinion, right? Like, is this going to line up with what we're doing here, right? And as the leader of the organization, you have to be willing to be called out on that, right? Like you said, like, if someone points out an incongruency, in what you're saying the organization's about, but they're not seeing that, you have to be willing to be like, you know what, you're right. That's not consistent with who we are, or not consistent with our mission or our values or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, that's big. You have to remove ego completely, especially if you're wanting, a lot of people are like, I want to do what you do. You got to remove ego completely, which we don't do a great job of statistically in the upper cervical
Right.
realm, let alone knee chest. Um, so I think we could all benefit from a little bit of release of our ego and more collaboration amongst ourselves. It's a big deal.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And I mean, in our own organization, this is because the way you're talking about is the same way we run UCM. And, over the years, I've had many team members be like, this isn't consistent with our core values, or this isn't consistent with that. And if I'm not, willing to hear that, if I'm going to puff myself up and be like, oh, well, I'm the boss around here, and, whatever, then I'm missing the whole point, right? Like, it's like, no, this is about who we're serving and what we're doing here, and that the mission is bigger than me, right? It needs to be that, and that has to be consistent throughout the organization, right? Because it's like a CA or an associate, or any of they all have to be able to be like, okay, let's all go in the same direction here, or we can't do this thing, right?
Yeah, you'll just be stagnant. If you want rapid growth, it's the old adage, you have two, like horse and buggies, you have two buggies, and one buggy has two horses and one buggy has 8 horses, and which one gets there faster? And you say, well, if the 2 horses are all know where they're going and they're going the same direction, and the 8 horses are all pulling different directions, well, then the 8 horses lose, right? So it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. It's got to be crystal clear vision, congruent vision, everyone on the same page. And I tell you, with what we're talking about, it's if you have an ego and you're scared to hear other people, that's a ton of stress. That's what I learned too. That's a ton of added stress. If you always have to be the person, like be the one in charge, be the guy, it's a ton of added stress. And I'll tell you, people, here's a good nugget of information for a lot of people. If you're a solo practitioner, and you can see yourself as let's just say your business as a pyramid, with the doctor on the top, and then the two building blocks below, or two CAs, let's just say, and that's a normal, let's just say, chiropractic office.
Yeah.
What happens with that is that the doctor leaves, well, then the practice shuts down. And that's why we need to, if we're doing these missions, we need to understand these concepts, that's not a good strategy. I don't really call that technically a business. No disrespect anybody, but when you run that kind of a model where it's just one doctor and two CAs, it actually feels like the pyramid's flipped upside down, and all the weight of the pyramid's coming down on that one, on the doctor. And that's a ton of stress. So then doctors will say, I feel if I could expand and bring in more associates, it will put less stress on me. And I am here to tell you that is the complete opposite. If you maintain your ego, and if you don't listen to anybody, and if you aren't constantly refining, if you're not looking for ways to get better. And I always tell everyone, read Ed Milet's book, The Power of One More. What's one more way we can get better? What's one more way we can serve our patients better? What's one more way I can serve my associates better? What's one more way I can serve my CAs better? Like, there always has to be that yearning to be better. If not, I'm telling you, done wrong, it's wildly more stressful than the stress you feel in a day-to-day practice of one doctor or two CAs.
100%. Yeah. And like you said, that mindset of I'm the servant of all is a completely different mindset, rather than everyone is here to serve me. Right? Like when a true leader who is in a place where they can really enjoy their business, their organization, their practice, has a mindset of, like, I'm here to serve everyone else. I'm here to to make sure that, you know, the CAs have what they need, the doctors have what they need, the patients have what they need. I'm here to, you know, encourage everyone to go in the direction we're going as a team. I'm here to inspire people. I'm here to encourage people, right? Like when you have that kind of a mindset, it's very freeing as a leader to have that. When you can really enjoy that, right? Because you were made, in my opinion, to do that, to serve in that way, to love people in that way, to pour into people in that way, right? And so when you do it that way, it works, right? But if it's I'm going to bring more doctors in to serve me, then it breaks down pretty quickly.
Yes, which is why anytime somebody says, I want to bring more doctors in, my first thing every single time is why?
Right.
You know, what is your why for bringing other doctors in? So if it, you know, and I'm gonna just be honest, just about every time it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired,
Yep.
or I want to work less. I want to take more vacations. I want to make more money. And it's always such selfish reasons, honestly. You know, it's just it's selfish, and for those that want to challenge, you know, make your business ahead of time. You know, work hard to make it a business. Work hard so that when somebody else comes in, you'll know it's time, because you'll need somebody else to help see the people. You'll need to have another doctor there. And when you feel that, then it's like, now you brought this other being into the office, and that being most likely has a family or could have children. And now it's like, again, there's this great stress on you to be ultra successful now for that person, and to help them and nourish them and their families. And that's what it should be about. The, you know, ultimately serving another doctor, and ultimately serving their family, and helping them be successful. And that's a big, there's a big difference. So I think when people are talking about bringing other associates in and such, and expanding and growing, you really got to do a heart check, and say, why am I doing this in the first place?
Right. Right. And I mean, and even the same, you know, as you said, so moving from, you know, the one location to the two locations and now the three locations, the same question has to drive that, right? Like why? Right? Like why are you going to two locations? What's the purpose there, right? And so
Right.
what drove you? What was your big why at what, you know, when you went from one to two and now the three, and you know, Lord willing, let's get you to 26. That'd be amazing. Like what is the big why that drives you, Rick?
It just keeps coming in waves, man. I tell everybody, I always feel like I'm surfing, like I always have this vision that I'm in the ocean, and I went to school over Palmer, Florida, Daytona. I can just always imagine I'm on a big surfboard out there, because I'm a big guy. I have to have a big surfboard, or else the regular little ones will just sink, right? And so I envision I'm on a big surfboard, and when I have these ideas, and it usually comes down like, what does Dr. Means want, and what is Dr. Means trying to do? I feel like I'm paddling, and
Mm,
I'm paddling, and I'm paddling, and when it's all about me, I feel like I'm just paddling very hard.
mm,
And then all of a sudden there'll be these things that pop in my mind, usually in the middle of the night, like what Dr. Palmer would call, you know, thought flashes. Things come into my mind at night. If you're close with me, I'm texting you all the time. I text people at odd hours, because I'll be up. It hits me at 2 o'clock and I can't sleep, and I'll be up the rest of the day. And it's weird when I get those, I'm no longer paddling, and all of a sudden it's like this giant wave comes along,
mm,
and that's when you really start paddling, because it's like, man, I'm going, and I'm picking up speed, I'm going, and that's when I can't sleep anymore. I can't sleep, and I have a very obsessive personality, so it's like I become obsessed on, why is this wave here? And I always feel like that's God, and He's almost got me in His hand, and like he's actually pushing me along. And again, I pray all the time, you know, give me the vision, give me the guidance on where to go, and I'll paddle. I will paddle so hard, I'll do the work. And I think when you're open to those opportunities, and when you're open to doing the work, and you attack things with a servant's heart, again, be ready for what's coming your way, and don't, you know, here's what I learned a long time ago too. Don't take offense if you have this vision. You go, I want to help more people, I think I can help more people. by opening up my own office. And you pray and you it's constantly like, I'm going to open my own office. Well, don't be offended if God goes, yeah, let's definitely do one office, but maybe instead of one office, could we do three? And you're like, that's kind of scary, God. It's kind of scary. Yes, let's do three. And then all of a sudden it's like, don't be offended if it becomes 26. Don't be offended if it goes out of Florida and goes into the rest of the United States. Don't be offended. Just be, stay open. And that's it. If people can really understand, people ask me all the time, like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, I really don't feel it's me at all. I'm not that smart, but I'm that hard-headed, I'm that obsessive that I'll do the work. And I think God just found a good worker in me. And that's my what do you call it, specialization of labor. That's just what I'm good at. And other people are really good at things I'm not good at. And especially in my organization now, it's like you again work together with the people in your group, and all of a sudden one will just turn to two. And like, why? Because we need to, there's more people out there. And I love your mission, Dr. Davis, and I'm honored to be on this podcast. Why? Because I can feel your mission. I can feel why you guys are doing what you're doing. It's the same thing. We're all looking to help more people, just different modus operandums, and that's it. So as we both look to serve more people and help more people, we just have to do it our ways. We have to get creative. We have to be open for opportunities. And here we are, so one office turned to two, turned to three, and I'm just on this wild wave. And even right now in this moment, people are asking me when's office 4 and 5 coming. Well, I was ready to paddle, and God gave me these messages of do this and do this and do this and get these things in order. Make sure quality stays really high. You don't ever want quality to suffer just because you want a higher quantity. And that's a thing, same thing with your practice, with seeing patients. Don't suffer quality just because you want a higher quantity. So I it's knowing when to paddle hard and when to stop and come back and go, hey, let me take inventory here, what we've got going on. Let's fix this. Let's make sure this is congruent. This is congruent. Quality super high. And when you have those and you can still be able to zoom out, I call it zoom out, a little bird's eye view, and figure out where you're at, what you're doing, and where you want to go. I mean, that's it. It's not too complex from there.
That's all. That's amazing. And I think about it a lot. The Bible says, to keep in step with the Spirit, right? Which to me is so crucial. What you're talking about, right? It's not going too fast and not falling behind, right? Keeping in step with the Spirit is what the Bible calls people that follow Christ to do. And it's what you're talking about here, right? Is because so often you can be paddling, as you said, right? In your analogy, you can be paddling and you're going nowhere because you're not keeping in step with the Spirit. You're not going in the direction that you're supposed to be going. And so everything feels hard. Everything, you're just beating your head against the wall. And then other times you're just flying along because you're going in the direction you're supposed to be going, right? And so it is and I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one that gets woken up at 2 a.m. Because that's me all the time. But that's it, man. It's and what God's been teaching me all this year is that prayer is more important than sleep. And sometimes He wakes me up to pray, and He wakes me up to He gives me vision of what He's doing. And you got to be ready for it, right? When it comes, be ready for it and be able to step into it and start doing something with it. But yeah, that's exciting, man. And so with the vision of the practices now, when you're, you got obviously you got several doctors in this system now, big, and collection of doctors and CAs and all these people, right? So what's some of the ways that you help everyone to stay on the same page, stay connected, stay focused on the mission, keep everybody paddling in the same directions? What's some of the ways that you found that are really helpful to do that?
Yeah, you gotta have weekly meetings. That's if you're not having at minimum weekly meetings with your team, there's a good place to start.
Yeah,
Weekly meetings for sure. you got to have some kind of communication server, and that could be multiple. There's so many different options with technology these days of whether it was a Signal chat or Discord server. There's different ways you can do it, but you got to be able to have a good chat that you guys can always make sure you're up to date on what's going on. It's imperative for me and how I stay up to date with all the offices, and that stuff's big. Seminars. We do seminars right now. Our office shuts down on a Friday every 3 to 4 weeks, and we train. We go through our scripts. We revamp our scripts. We're in the age of technology right now. We're in the age of AI, and with age of AI, everything is exponentially going so much faster and changing. And for instance, if your scripts are talking about, I don't know, having someone come in the office and fill out paperwork in the office, and now you're doing all your paperwork online. Well, go change your scripts. You got to update that stuff. So as we're continuing to progress and push forward in this age of technology, there's more and more. Your stuff needs updated more and more. So again, like I said, for us, it's every 3 to 4 weeks we're meeting. All three offices come together and we're having these vision seminars, and we're making changes. We're staying congruent. We're just getting better.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's it. I mean, you can't coast, right? You got to continue to train. You got to continue to stay connected and stay, you can't just rest on what has worked in the past, right? You got to continue to keep up with what's going on, and so that you can keep moving towards the future.
Yeah, you can rest if you want to. You'll just look back 30 years later with a whole bunch of, I wish I would have done this.
Right. That's right. Yeah. There's only one way, in that circumstance, right? You're just going to slide back down the pole, right? It's like, practice is like a greasy pole, right? You're either climbing up or you're just sliding backwards. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But, I wanted to ask you before we wrap up today, Rick, I'm obviously been blessed to work with you now for a while with UCM, and for anybody out there that doesn't know or isn't working with us, would you mind sharing just kind of your experience of what it's been like to work with us over the years?
Yeah, I worked with you guys for years, and then it was just everything was great. I even, full transparency, went away from you guys for a little bit and tried out multiple different things. And as you can tell now, I'm back with you guys, and people should know that.
Yeah.
And I'm back with UCM, and I got to tell you, some of the things now since being back, you guys have really stepped your game up, and I love what the biggest thing for me is. You get on you could tell, you get on a phone call with me, I'll go a million miles per hour. I'm going to throw out 15 different ideas that are way down the line. I'm just going to throw a whole bunch of crap at the wall and see what sticks. And you guys have done such a great job. Tony has done such a great job. Gabrielle has been, Summer, everybody on the team has just been, so great at saying, throw it at us, give us your ideas, give us what you want, and then you guys just somehow just make it all happen. And so if you're out there and you're running an office, I think, again, we're in the age of technology. You got to have something online. You got to have your online marketing working. I always do say, Facebook advertising and stuff like that is great, especially for somebody coming right out of school and you want to do some free advertising. Cool, do that. But as you grow, and you should grow rapidly, you do not have time to do this stuff. And you got a company, Upper Cervical Marketing, here that's slaying it. They're the ones that are working on progressing their techniques, their marketing techniques, all the technology. They're progressing that stuff constantly and always updating their systems. You don't have time to do that as a practicing doctor. I'm not a practicing doctor anymore, and I still don't have time to do that. So just hire UCM, and they'll definitely put you in the right direction, put new patients in your office.
Man, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. We've 13 years now we've been doing this, and it's been such a blessing to build such a great team, and then be able to consistently update what we've been doing to help doctors. Because as you mentioned, we got a big mission, right? We got, our mission is to bring hope and healing to sick and suffering people for the glory of God. And that's what I was doing in my office before I was injured. And I've continued to do that now for 13 years here at UCM, working with great offices like yours. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate those kind words. And I appreciate your time today in this interview. Really, really do. And I think it's so important. I want to encourage those docs out there listening, start thinking bigger, right? Allow yourself to think a little bit bigger. Think about, like, what is that big why? How can you be driven by that why? Don't be driven by your ego, but be driven by that why. And you'll see amazing things happen. So Rick, anything else you want to share before we wrap up today?
No, we hit a bunch of stuff. Just everybody just stay open to opportunities and go after it with all you got.
Nice. All right. And as we always say around here, go team upper cervical.